I'm interviewing Professor Lappi from NC State. Professor, can you tell me where do you work at NC State?
My primary job function is with environmental health and safety, and I am the expert on non-ionizing radiation hazards and their mitigation.
There are a lot of discussions on different massage therapist networking groups on Facebook and other places about UVC lights, about effect of UV lights on viruses, and whatever I read about it seems kind of dangerous. So can you explain to us, can UV light and UVC light affect virus, and how long it will take to actually kill the virus?
Yes, UV light is a protein denaturing energy source, and it will destroy the proteins that are associated with bacteria and viruses, although it will take some time for that process to occur, anywhere from a few hours to many hours, and can be extended depending on the intensity of the source and how much exposure area there is.
So is this like simple equipment I can buy somewhere at Amazon and put it in the center of my treatment room? How it works?
No. Most of the types of lights that you find that produce UV or are touted as UV lights are basically black lights. They don't produce a significant amount of sterilizing light, which would be in the UVC category rather than the UVA. Most of them produce UVA in extensive amounts. They're relatively weak in the effective, or what are called antique light range.
How expensive these UVC lights?
Typically they're quite expensive. Research types of lamps, the bulbs can run several $100s, just the bulb, not the housing for it. Typical ones that are used in hospital settings and are now being manufactured as room sterilization systems run into the six figures and up, and are typically very expensive devices. $100,000, $200,000 is not an unusual cost for a full room sterilization unit.
Is it a safe way to kill viruses?
No, not necessarily. In most of the remote systems, it is not. I have to turn the lamp on from within the space, and then I have to exit the space, exposing myself to that UV light while I'm doing that. In the robotic hospital units, the cost is encountered in the fact that the devices will automatically turn on once the occupants have left the space, i.e. they have a timer or they have a sensor system that detects the presence of a human in the space.
What is the danger for me as the human of these UVC lights?
UV lights and UVC lights but UV is especially bad for us. There are two international agencies that monitor carcinogens who've classified UV light as a carcinogen to humans. Two of them. That means that we must treat it as such. And a carcinogen, there is no known safe level of exposure. It also is a contributing factor and is considered the primary factor for human cataracts, as well as other animal cataracts.
You mentioned cataracts. Is it dangerous for our eyes?
Yes, it is quite dangerous to the eye. There is a common condition known as welder's eye. Staring at somebody using an electric arc welding system will lead to a condition where you kill the cells on the surface of the lens. It happens as a delayed effect. It takes 12 to 24 hours for it to appear, but when it does, you will most definitely regret that you had stared at that welding light. And that's a direct result of the exposure to UV light that's produced in that process.
What if I am going to look kind of in a different direction? I'm not going
You
to...
could still potentially be exposed to it. UV light reflects off many surfaces, and we have no senses that tell us that we're looking at UV light. So we don't know what surface it's reflecting off of. So we have to consider basically every surface as a potential reflection. A very good example of multiple reflective surfaces is an individual who gets a tan under an umbrella at the beach. How did that happen? The water reflected the UV light exposing them to it. Excuse me, the director has stepped in. Apparently I made a mistake and we need to address that. We will get back to the show in a moment.
So what about skin? Like, what if I cover myself? There are all these SPF clothes. What if I'm going to wear SPF clothes when I walk into the room?
You would the protective equipment and the general protection we recommend for anybody who has to work with open UV light sources is full coverage of the skin. That includes around the neck and head and face, and using appropriately rated UV eyewear and face shields. Complete covering. That includes covering the top of the head. A hat, clothing, and gloves would be a minimum necessity for protecting you against it.
What is the price range for this equipment?
They can get very expensive. Typical gowning equipment and clother, you can start as a typical lab coat's the same cost as most any shirts or pants. So you're looking at $25 to $50 for a coat covering. A coverall could be $100. Gloves that you would wear, yes, you can wear disposable gloves, but they become expensive each time you have to change them out. Face shields typically can cost $100 for an appropriately rated face shield that will protect you from exposure to your face and eyes.
In your learned opinion, is it reasonable for massage therapists to install UVC lighting in their massage settings?
It's not very practical for them to do so. Most of the lights that they would have availability to them are not going to produce enough UV light for any type of quick sterilization. It may take 12 to 24 hours to do a room of moderate size, say 10 by 10. That's 100 square feet of area excluding the volume of the height of the room. If you're trying to kill every surface in that room, you're going to have to run that light for at least 12 hours. And you may have to actually move a light around the room in order to effectively get to all the potential places where there could be an exposure to a virus or a bacterium within its space. That gets to be pricey, and those bulbs do not last very long. A typical UVC bulb will only last around 400 hours, although there are claims that they do last longer.
How I can figure out if the bulb is still producing UVC light?
You need special equipment to do that with. Generally speaking, you need a light meter that it registers UV light, and to see what the intensity of the light is at the initial, when you first turn it on, and as time goes by, you need to measure that light intensity again and again on a regular basis. And eventually it will decay away. It won't be able to produce enough UV light to be of any effectiveness.
Thank you very much, Professor.
You're quite welcome. I hope it is a benefit to your clients.